Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this special meeting of the LPEA Board of Directors. Checking the agenda, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And let's go ahead and start off as we usually do with our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll stand with me. I pledge allegiance
to
the
the
flag
flag
of the United
of the United
States,
States of America,
to the
to the
republic
republic
for
for which it stands,
one
one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and justice for all.
for all.
Okay, thank you very much. Next item is approval of the agenda, rather short agenda, but I would take a motion for approval.
So moved by Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel.
Second, Kohler.
And I heard a second by Kohler. Thank you very much. Okay, any discussion? All in favor of approving the agenda as presented, say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Or abstentions? All right, agenda stands. Item 2 on the agenda, member comments and concerns. Let's go ahead and open the floor. And can I get someone to keep tabs on the order and just go ahead and start calling? I think you're muted, Drew.
I think I'm unmuted. Hi, my name is Emily.
Wait.
Hang on.
Wait.
Okay. Let's make sure we get people
Statement.
identified. To the people who are listening, please, when you are called on, state your name and if you know your district, if not, generally where you live in the LPEA territory. And before I jump to that, I see Holly's hand up. So is there something that you wanted to comment on before we go into member comment?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to ask if we are going to have our normal disclosure by Graham in regard to public comment, sir.
Thank you very much for
great catch, Holly. Thank you.
Before we proceed with public comment, I'll remind everyone of LPEA's rules regarding comment. The board encourages comments about the cooperative from its members. The board will take all member comments under consideration, but it will not provide a response during the member comment period. The board asks that each participant's comments pertain to cooperative business. Those wanting to address the board during the public comment period are granted 5 minutes to address their topics. Lengthy comments to the board should be submitted in writing, and formal complaints must be filed in writing and submitted in compliance with applicable board policy. Comments from the public will be directed at the entire board and not to any individual. No personal attacks shall be allowed. Failure to follow these requirements may cause the public comment period to be terminated. Copies of our cooperative policies and procedures on public comment and filing complaints are available on the cooperative website.
All right. Thank you very much, Graham. And thanks again, Holly, for catching that. So it looks like we do have Emily first on the list. And Emily, you're muted, but other than that, you have the floor.
Great. Hi, my name is Emily. I'm in District 3. And I'm just here to provide a comment that I'm still really excited about the PACE loan that you all received and all the hard work that went into that. And I just want to emphasize to the board that I think that the PACE loan is a sign of LPEA's ability to move into the future of our co-op's energy supply without Tri-State. And I want to use this as a kickoff to really hopefully spur all of you to really consider filing to leave our contracts with Tri-State. It is the best time for LPEA to do so. And I think the board should vote today to file to exit. I know at your last board meeting, you heard a lot of concerns about the solar issues that we're facing, but also about climate change in general. And while the solar issue is not specifically caused by the contract with Tri-State, it is limiting the options in some ways to resolve that quickly. And our contract with Tri-State is limiting our ability, our co-op's ability to lower its impacts on climate change. So I really want you to take those member comments seriously and see how that they relate to our contract with Tri-State. Every month that we have stayed with Tri-State, we are locking ourselves into paying a longer time of paying their rates because of the 2-year requirement of exiting Tri-State. So the sooner we do this, the sooner we will be able to move forward. And I want to just thank all of you for your hard work and how serious you all are considering this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emily, for your comments. Who do we have next? Dale, hello, you have the floor.
Hi, Board. Thank you for allowing us to speak today. My concerns are the same as they were a couple of years ago when you guys first started proposing this idea, and that is reliability concerns, long-term reliability. And, with weather-related events, we all seen what happened to Texas. And I've had conversations with your ex-president and Dan Harms about it. It's been a while, and none of their comments soothe over the concerns from a reliability standpoint or the economics. If the plan is still the same, you're planning on going to the open market to buy some of your power, which is can swing very wildly during time of crisis. And so I asked the board if they could provide a complete economic analysis of this, which includes all your assumptions on future power prices and your capital costs that you're going to expect your members to pay, and how you plan to deal with weather-related events like Mount St. Helens or somewhere like that, something where you don't have the sun or the wind to take care of this. And how are you going to ensure that the co-op members are protected? And but the economic analysis, I really would like to see if you can provide that now before you use the reasoning that you were involved in a lawsuit to keep it from us. So could you please provide that now to your members?
Thank you, Dale, for your comments. As you heard in the preamble by Graham, there won't be any specific response to questions or comments during the comment period.
We didn't get the preamble because they wouldn't let anybody in. So all we got was the Pledge of Allegiance, or so we didn't get to hear that.
Okay, I thought, Graham, that was in public session, wasn't it, just moments ago?
It was what Director Metzler requested at the beginning of the public comment period before the first commenter spoke.
Yeah, and then Graham Smith recited the preamble to public comment. So I'm pretty sure that everyone on got to hear that. All right, any further comments there, Dale?
Well, I just so you're not going to respond if you'll provide that? Is that what you're saying, or do I need to ask for it a different way?
I think
what if that's the case? What's the proper method to request that information?
We've received your email, Mr. Ruggles, so
Okay.
we can respond that way. I would initially say that per the specifics of the contract termination with Tri-State are confidential per Tri-State's filing at FERC. Tri-State filed that all of the contract termination payment details be under seal when they filed their compliance filing with FERC on January 25th, 2024. So we have to respect that. We can't disclose that at Tri-State's request.
Understood that part, but you guys have done some economic analysis to decide if this is right for your co-op members. So thank you very much, and I'll wait for your response in writing, I guess.
Okay, thank you very much, Dale. Okay, before we move on, I see Kohler's hand up, and I'll recognize him.
It's just a reminder to have whoever's commenting to please state their name and where they're from. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder, Kohler. Okay, next on the list, Kirsten, I see you, or Kristen, I'm sorry, I see you, and you have the floor.
Hi, my name is Kristen Mishker. I have a family of 5 in rural Lapota County. We have a small family-run Navajo Churro sheep ranch where we run breed preservation of this threatened breed, and our electric bills for irrigation during the summer and various things have gone up quite a bit in the last couple of years. We're interested in staying with Tri-State. We do not want to abandon this reliable source of energy. And we want our opinion and our voice to be documented. And please do not attempt to get us out of this contract with Tri-State. And that's where we stand on it. Thank you.
And did we document as Kohler requested the general district and location of this member? Sorry.
I got Kristen's name and Kristen, general location again. You said where the ranch was, where the farm was, but I didn't note it.
We are near Lake Pastorius.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Kristen, for your comments today. Okay, moving to the next. Jason, I see you in the room and you have the floor.
Good morning. My name is Jason Meach and I live on Florida Mesa, whatever district that is, you can figure that out. I am here to comment about the exit of the Tri-State contract. I haven't received anything from Apata Electric saying how much this is going to cost us, but I have heard that it's in the neighborhood of $200 and some million. I don't know if that's correct. Can someone nod their head if I'm even in the ballpark? If that's the case, where's that money going to come from? How long is it going to take to recoup that layout of capital in savings? I know the idea. We want to get out of a contract, but I've got to think that it's going to. I'll probably be dead, and my kids will be close to it by the time we recoup $297 million in savings. Has the Apata Electric entered into any other contracts for power to replace the contract we're leaving? If so, it'd be nice to see those, if those could be distributed to the members. Do we have prices on that, or are we just going to wing it and just hope for the best? I'm not a big fan of winging it. I've lived here my whole life. Winging it doesn't get it done. It hasn't in the past. It's not going to now. Is there a number that can be provided by LPEA to its members that show? I know it's a co-op, and I'm only 50, so I haven't seen any payouts to the members in my life of any sort of substantial amount. If there's money owed to the members of the co-op, why haven't we seen a release of that back to us? That's the way it's supposed to work. I hope that money is not going to be used for this buyout. I'm all for diversifying our power. We should get it from all sources, in my view, but we shouldn't sacrifice one for the other, and we shouldn't lay out money with no return just to get out of a contract. It buys us opportunity, but it doesn't buy us any. It doesn't buy us any power. It doesn't buy us any contracts. It doesn't buy us anything that's meaningful, in my view. And I know you can't answer the questions now, but feel free. You have my address. You can mail these all to me, and I expect a response. And I'd also like to see the evaluation that's gone into this, the financial analysis that shows exactly the return on every dollar that we're going to get, how much we can anticipate, what we think the costs are going to be, what research has been done to evaluate sources of future power. If we haven't done that, you probably should do that before you vote. If you have done it, great. I'd like to see it. I haven't received anything in the mail, and I'm old-fashioned. That's the way I like to get communication. On a piece of paper in my mailbox works for me. I think that's all I have for my time, and I'm probably out of time. Thank you.
All right, great, Jason. Appreciate your comments and your attendance today. Thanks very much. Okay, next member, Kelly, I see you in the room and you have the floor.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Kelly Hegarty, and I am in La Plata County, Durango, Colorado, a little bit north up by Hermosa Grill, up that way, Honeyville. Anyway, I did submit questions via email because that's how I thought you were wanting them, but I'll go ahead and share here just a record. My questions would be also stated a little bit earlier, but certainly if you can address the concerns of the La Plata County baseload energy needs, how much energy do we currently need for peak times? And then considering average growth, like for example, over the next decade, how much more will our county require? If you can disclose the cost to buy this tri-state, the full cost, how much we're paying to buy down this contract, and then what are the terms and the length of the contract? Will we see this contract as members? Will we get to see it prior to your vote? Who owns or who are the board members of Crossover and how long have they operated? What other counties do they service? Are there counties that are similar in size or climate or similar energy needs to ours so we can prove efficacy of their production? And then where is Crossover located or headquartered and where do they get their power? How do they store their power if applicable, or how do they transmit their power? And who owns those transmission lines? What is the Crossover contract term, and are there minimum and or maximum energy units that we must purchase? And then what's the guarantee from Crossover during high load energy needs or weather concerns? I think that was talked about earlier. What is the backup energy provider to Crossover, if any? And let's see, how long are we LPEA locked into this new contract? What is our exit strategy if this contract fails to perform in some fashion? And let's see, what else? Oh, and the money coming, where's the money coming from? I think we talked about that for this proposed buyout. And if we've been given as members proper time to comment or again, review paperwork to accept this. And then what percentage of LPEA members must vote to accept or reject this contract buyout? Or is that something that's required, or is it just a board decision? And then this was not part of my questions, but I want to ask, I recently received something, I can't remember, LPA sent it out, and it was stating that producers of solar currently in La Plata County are overproducing, right? You're not necessarily needing it to come back into the system. And I thought about that and I thought, because frankly, my house is equipped with solar and we have batteries and we store and we frankly use it through the night. So we don't draw off LPEA during the day. If I'm overproducing, how come that can't be stored in some fashion to go to other households within La Plata County during their times of need? So I've got 100% of my batteries stored and I'm still seeing the sun, you know. So if you have households that are overproducing and you're not able to bring that back in, maybe we as LPEA County can look at storing some of that overproduction and then sending that out to other users in La Plata County. That's just a thought. So, all right, those were my comments. I did email most of those except for that last one, and I appreciate your time very much. Kelly Hegarty, thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Kelly, for the well thought out questions and comments there and for participating in the meeting today. Okay, next. Barry, you're in the room and you have the floor. And we can't hear you yet. Barry, we can't hear you. Okay, Barry, we're gonna move on to the next and loop you back and we'll try again after a couple more hands if your hand goes back up, Barry. Okay, Sue, you're next in the room and you have the floor.
Perfect, thank you. Sue McWilliams, District 4. And, you know, a couple of years ago, when we were looking at either a partial or a full buyout of Tri-State, then the board set up meetings around the district to discuss it. And give information to the members, and kind of went over all of the details for either a partial or a full buyout. And I think today's discussion in the special meeting, a lot of members are feeling like that was probably 2 to 3 years ago, at least 2, and a lot of things have changed over that time frame. And I think the members are feeling like they're not informed. And I mean, I think the previous questions have been really good. I agree with most of those. It's like, now as a member, not a director, I'm feeling really out of the loop on this and would like the board to consider having those community meetings again before having a vote of any kind. Just so the members are updated and know what the cost is going to be, when the payout will be, where the money's coming from, all of those dynamics. So with that, I appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning.
Thanks for being here today, Sue. Thanks for the comments. Moving along, Mark Pearson, you're in the room and you have the floor.
Hi, thank you. My name is Mark Pearson. I'm in District 4, and I just wanted to offer a couple comments and encourage the board to move forward with evaluating exiting the contract with Tri-State. And I think we're fortunate in that we don't have to be the trendsetters here, and that we can look to our neighbors in northern New Mexico at Kit Carson and just to the north at Delta Montrose, and see how they're faring with their exit. Kit Carson totally paid off their fee in about 5 or 6 years, and now they are have much lower rates than they did prior to leaving Tri-State. So I think there's some good examples to look at with our neighboring co-ops to see how they're doing, and it's not like we're we're the first ones out the gate here. And the other thing I just wanted to flag is, there's this robust amount of new big solar projects under construction in our neck of the woods here, particularly across the state line in New Mexico. And one project, San Juan Solar 1, is about to come online for P&M later this summer. And the second phase of that project, called Foxtail Flats, that's on Ute Mountain Ute land, is in contract and under permitting, and should break ground later this year also. And that's a project that would be readily available for LPEA to purchase some of its generation if we were ready to go and able to do that. And you probably saw the big story in the Herald about the huge project over on Ute Mountain Ute land south of Toyac also, that would be available for LPEA to purchase power. So I think there's an abundance of local energy sources that we could take advantage of that would be cheaper than our current contract with Tri-State. And I think also it's just good to reflect on the fact, like someone mentioned the problem with we're overproducing solar and it can't go onto the grid, and if only we could put in batteries. Well, unfortunately, our current contract with Tri-State precludes us, from having our own battery storage, as I understand it. So I think that those are kind of good examples of why we want the flexibility to chart our own course, and appreciate the board's lengthy deliberation on this. I know that it's kind of been under discussion for, at least 6 years, and it's good to kind of come to a final conclusion here one way or another, and follow what's happening, I think, throughout the Tri-State system. United and Mountain Parks are both leaving Tri-State in the next few months or year, and so I think it's the trend, and I think it's a good trend, and we should take advantage of it. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark, for your comments today. And next, John Purser, you're in the room and you have the floor.
Hello, John Purser from District 4. I'm confused. Everybody seems to assume that this meeting is about exiting Tri-State. Looking at the agenda, and we're supposed to be voting, or the board is supposed to be voting on a resolution. I haven't seen that resolution published. So this is typical of the board's communication. You failed to communicate according to policy about a recent election and had to postpone it. Everybody presumes you're voting on tri-state exit. We haven't seen any of the terms of it. We don't know what the buyout cost is. We haven't seen the resolution you're voting on. The whole thing seems premature to me. As Sue McWilliams said, you need to do a lot better job of communicating. And number two, before acquiring this sort of debt, I believe it should be a vote of the entire membership. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, John, for being here and for your comments today. Okay, moving along. I see Sarah in the room, and Sarah, you have the floor.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Sarah.
Okay, great. My name's Sarah. I live in LPEA District 3. Today, I want to urge LPEA to leave tri-state. As an energy user, I believe it's in the best interest of the co-op to maximize sustainable options for energy and also ensure prices are kept fair for users. Every month we stay in tri-state, we lock ourselves into more time paying their rate increases. And between the actions of the FERC buyout and the PACE loan, I think this is the best time for LPEA to leave its contract with tri-state. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sarah, for your comments. All right. Okay, Barry, you're back on. Give it a try.
Yes, everyone. Can you hear me now?
We can indeed. Thank you.
Excellent. Apologize, had slight technical difficulties. So full disclosure, I'd like to state that I have worked for Tri-State. I live in District 2. I've worked in the area for years, now retired. So I'm speaking strictly as a member. But I want to point out, a lot of people seem to have negative views towards Tri-State. Those views seem to be promulgated by some local groups. I want to remind everyone that Tri-State is a member-owned and controlled not-for-profit co-op, which one of our local board members sits on their board. When decisions are made, they're made by the board of directors. So we do have control over Tri-State. I would vote against the Tri-State buyout. I'm not against renewables, but I do understand their abilities and limitations. One of the biggest issues with the renewables is cost of scale. The larger the project, generally the lower the cost. So doing small projects costs more than doing a large project. And Tri-State has the horsepower, if you will, to do these large projects, which they have been doing. I've been following the actions of the board, LPEA board, for the last couple of years. Their original arguments were that Tri-State was not invested in renewables. They were way too heavy in fossil fuel generation. Obviously, we've all seen that evolve and change over the last few years. Tri-State is shutting down their coal-fired power plants in Colorado and New Mexico. They are changing over to a much more renewable-based energy. So in the respect of renewables, I think we'll achieve our goal, our goal of getting more renewables by staying with Tri-State at faster pace than doing it alone. I'd also like to point out that LPEA's own survey that went out in January asked, rank these 5 topics. And what came back was number 1 was affordability. Number 2, grid resiliency. Number 3, local decision-making. 4 was local generation. And 5 was renewables. So it seems to fly in the face of a lot of the comments that I hear from people saying that, the topmost concern is renewable energy. I think affordability for a lot of people is very, very important. I think spending millions of dollars to buy out of a contract that LPEA helped write and agree to some years back is the way to go. Let's stay with Tri-State. We're still going to be, even if you buy out of the contract, you're still going to be paying Tri-State because you're having to transport someone else's energy over their lines to get to you. So all in all, I just like to to say Tri-State's probably the best option, stick with them. And for those that may not realize this, the reason Tri-State, you don't hear them come into our community and advocate for themselves, it's because they are owned by the local co-ops. They feel that if they come into the community and speak against some of the pushback they're getting, that they would be going adverse to their own members. So they've taken a hands-off policy. Unfortunately, that means you're only hearing one side of the story. You're not getting the Tri-State feedback very well, either in local media or directly. That's pretty much what I had to say this morning. I welcome the chance to speak. Thank you.
All right, Barry, thank you very much. We're glad you got the technical difficulty worked out and that we got to hear from you today. All right. I don't see any other hands at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and close the member comment period. And I'll recognize Tim Wheeler.
Yeah, I move to take a vote on Power Supply Resolution 2024-03.
Okay. Thank you for the motion, Tim.
Second.
I see John as a second. So we're on agenda item 3. It's been moved and seconded to pass resolution 2024-03. I think at this time it would be appropriate to present / review / read that resolution. I think Graham's prepared to do that. Can we go ahead and do that, Graham? Put that up on the screen and actually, I think probably best just to go ahead and read through the whole thing so everybody knows exactly what we're considering here. Kohler, before we start that, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just have comments after he's done.
Okay, I'll keep your hand up then. Thank you.
For the board's consideration today, we have resolution 2024-03, authorization to file notice of withdrawal from Tri-State. Whereas the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, has established the parameters for an electric distribution cooperative to leave its existing wholesale electric service contract, WESC, with Tri-State Generation and Transmission Association Incorporated, Tri-State, and whereas the Board of Directors, Board of the La Plata Electric Association Incorporated, LPEA, wishes to seek unrestricted power supply options in the free and open market. And whereas the board wishes to provide explicit instructions to the CEO to notify Tri-State of its intention to leave in conformity with the process established by FERC. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the La Plata Electric Association Incorporated that the CEO of La Plata of LPEA is hereby instructed to file a non-conditional notice of intent to withdraw from Tri-State at FERC, including all related filings, and hereby authorizes and instructs the CEO to sign said notice as soon as practical, but no later than March 31st, 2024. I, John Lee, Jr., Secretary of La Plata Electric Association, do hereby certify that the above is a true and correct copy of the resolution adopted by the Board of Directors of La Plata Electric Association Incorporated at a special meeting held in Durango, Colorado on March 25th, 2024, at which meeting a quorum of directors was present and voting.
Okay, thank you for that, Graham. And I'll go ahead and open up for discussion on the motion, and Kohler, your hand's up first.
And Ted, do you want me to continue to share this while we this, or?
I think only if requested. I think that's enough for now. I'd much rather be able to see the speakers. Thank you. And anybody wants to see that again, just feel free to request it. Okay, you have the floor, Kohler.
All right, thank you. So at this month's board meeting, and we were discussing this, and we were kind of taking somewhat of a straw vote, and I would tell you that I was a weak no. And the thing that was really leaning heavily on me is one question, and that was, what will Tri-State do with the United CTP funds? Will they use that towards debt? And that was a big concern for me, because if they don't use it towards debt, then I think it can put more, or not more pressure, it would harm LPEA's members. I then submitted questions to staff about other things that weighed heavily with me as well. And what I'd like to do is go through a few of these questions. So the first one I ask is, at what time would our debt to equity percentage, which is a goal of ours, be projected to be back in compliance with the goal after taking on this new debt? And there's three things that stood out to me with the answer that I received. The first one was that it's estimated to take 10 years to become compliant again. The second one was that this is a mandated goal and the board can change it. And the third one was it's a modified financial objectives was mentioned. So I go back to that and I think 10 years to come back in compliance. And right now there's not a director sitting on this board that has been on this board for 10 years. That's a long time. And we're probably all cycle through here and it'll be a whole new board in 10 years. The second thing is, as far as the board can change that goal, I agree with that 100%. But when we came up with this goal, as well as our overall reaching goal that we have, which we're out of compliance on the date now, there's a lot of discussion. There was a lot of discussion in the committees as well as the regular board meeting. And it seems kind of simple the way it's answered here. It is not. And we came up with that goal for a good, valid reason. And to change it, I mean, when we take on this new debt, that goal is not just a little bit out of compliance, it's way out of compliance. And I just don't feel comfortable with what kind of change it would take and why we would change it. The next question I have is kind of tied into the same thing, and that is, what is the projected MDSC and O tier with the new debt? And for those that are listening, MDSC is a modified debt service coverage, and O tier is operations times interest earned ratio. And basically, there are two different tools that are sometimes required by your covenants, but they're tools to let you know how you can pay the debt that you owe. And it's important. It's a protection for the lender as well as the borrower. And the things that stood out to me on the answer I received here was, however, even though an MDSC of a certain value, and I don't know if I can say it, violates our covenants, so that's one thing that was mentioned. And the other thing was that the lender, they are open to amending this covenant. And those two things really, really bother me, because being out of or in violation of the covenants, to me, keeps me up at night. And also amending the covenant. And I've done negotiations with banks and others before on borrowing. Sometimes I ask the same question: what if we do this? It'd make it more affordable for me. And there was always, yeah, we can do that, but here's what's going to happen. I don't have vision on what would be tied into this open for amending the covenant. Another question I had was, is there a cushion for unexpected large expenses such as wildfires, severe weather, things of that nature? And the answer was yes, we have a line of credit, and that's a $25 million line of credit, and potentially cash on hand. But I really haven't seen what cash on hand will have when we get to this point. And so I'm uncomfortable with that part. Another question is there a projected budget for grid upgrades needed for changing from the wholesale electric service contract with Tri-State to new contracts? Excuse me. And the reason I ask this question is because we have been in the news lately that we cannot allow solar on certain circuits within our grid because we've kind of overdone the solar. And one of two of the solutions that were brought up for that issue was, number one, we need to increase load. And number two is that we can use batteries. And it was mentioned the price of these batteries. And these batteries would be put at the substations. And it's a huge amount of money. And again, it kind of goes back to that last question I talked about, the extra funds we're going to have on hand to take care of things that we really haven't thought about. I mean, this issue kind of came up quick, at least to me, that we had this issue. how many other issues are going to come up, and what is our ability to take care of what we need to keep our grid solid. Another question I had is that what the projected rate increase in percent and dollars for the other 35 or 45% of expenses. In other words, if we get out of Tri-State and we go with another power supplier, one of the advantages of that, and it's a great advantage, is that you know your price for the next 20 years. It might be flat or it might have an increase, but you know exactly what it is. But what about the other part? So our power is roughly 60 to 65% of our expenses. And we have another part that's 35 to 40%. And the answer I got was, a blended increase of approximately 2.5% a year. And I don't really buy that. And the reason I don't is because in past meetings and within the last year, we really saw the effects of inflation. We were told how hard that is on our leadership, our staff, to try to control these expenses. And we look at capital X projects, such as a bucket truck, and the cost of these bucket trucks are just stunning. It's not even close to 2.5%. I don't know how you get 2.5%. Even when it got up to 7%, I can tell you personally, from my point of view, insurance, gas, quite a few things, it was much higher than what the stated inflation was. So I'm not comfortable with the 2.5%. And then the next question is, will the addition of transmission assets purchased with the DTP or the contract buyout change the transmission status with NERC? And if so, what would be the additional cost? And the answer there was educational for me. And right now we're considered a transmission owner. And if the only way we would get converted over to being a transmission operator, which would then throw us under a lot of new requirements, would be to add a lot more generation on our system. And to me, the reason we're getting out of Tri-State is to add more generation on our system, have some local generation. And what the other comment that was in here is these costs have been contemplated, but are not currently included. And we've talked about it in the past, and it's been huge. And the penalties for not doing this correct with FERC are tremendous. So I think I foresee quite a few expenses if we actually add generation here, and we fall under that new status. And then the last one I want to talk about is a question that I threw in later. And what we got was a slide that showed different options for what's called resource adequacy. And that resource adequacy is what we have in case one of our other units go down. In other words, we're always protected to have power for our members. And one of the things that was brought up was called gas tolling. I had no idea what gas tolling was, so that was the question I asked. And they gave an example in there of what gas tolling is. And I don't know, it was one of several options. If this is a good option, a poor option, an expensive option, or a cheap option. But they did give a sample in there. I don't know if I can say the rates, but it was stunning. It was in the millions of dollars per year. And I'm sitting there going, okay, here's another thing with this money to, purchase this money. And I'm not comfortable. I do not feel that we've got what we need to get a very clear picture on exactly what this financial picture is. So at this point in time, I don't think we can afford the buyout, and I am a no. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much for those comments, Kohler. Next hand up I see is Dan Huntington. You have the floor, Dan.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'm like Kohler, read those answers and questions in my mind. I thought I was getting there, but after I started reading those, it just debt piled upon debt. And I just can't see us rushing into this. I don't understand why we had to have this special meeting to have this vote before April 1st. So anyway, I moved to table this discussion and motion.
Okay,
I'll
Dan, I
second
need
it.
to get procedural advice from Graham on that motion within the motion.
This is a subsidiary motion to table, so I believe Kohler, did you second it?
Yes.
So it's been moved and seconded, so this is now the motion that we're considering, and then depending on this outcome, so we're now debating whether or not to table the motion.
Okay, thanks for the clarification, Graham. Is there anybody that wants to provide discussion prior to voting on tabling the motion or not? And Dan, I still see your hand up, but okay, so Nicole, or sorry, I think Kirsten is first on this. And remember, we're just discussing right now tabling or not tabling this motion. Go ahead, Kirsten.
Yeah, since tabling the motion does involve timing, I need to check what I believe most of our timing discussions are. I know they were in executive session. I believe they're all still, we can't talk about our timing discussions. Is that right, Graham?
I mean, I think the timing dates that you've been concerned about are a matter of public record, right? So there is information theoretically coming out under the FERC order on April 1st that is part of the FERC order that requires annual information filing on Tri-State's behalf about contract termination payments, April 1st of each year. And then the deadline for United contract termination payment filings is a matter of public record. Their departure date is a matter of public record. So I think as far as those two dates, and if you have concerns about them, those dates are public record.
Okay, so the one part of the public record which that I feel okay talking about would be the first one, which was the April 1 date, and that's why having to have it special and not being able to do it in our regular meeting. And the concern is when all those numbers are public at that time, then there may be, may I call it a rush for the door, and we are trying to preempt that. So that's why before April. And as far as before the May one, that is, I know it's public record that United is leaving, but I don't believe it's public record about why we're concerned about that date. So I won't discuss that. And that's it. I just wanted to give some context to why we're rushing this. And the rush is the April 1 date is the May date is very important to us, and the April 1 date is fairly important to us, and that's why the rush.
Okay, Kirsten, thanks for that context. Nicole, I see your hand up next.
Thanks, Ted. I think Kirsten addressed the two major issues that we were talking about with the April 1. We have concerns about what happens when people see this number, and it could tie us to, we have major concerns about Tri-State. And I think that's something that I feel we can say in public sessions. This idea we're kind of saying, it's like people seem to be framing this as like staying with Tri-State is the safe bet. And I think that is not fundamentally correct among some of the considerations we've had. So we've talked extensively about strategic reasons why this could be a very expensive delay if we waited till after our next board meeting.
Okay, appreciate that, Nicole. Yeah, and go ahead, Kohler.
So I actually would like to get this vote behind me and move on with other things. But in the last 2 days, I've had members that have talked to me and they're very upset, and I know them well. And they were very firm and angry that they didn't know anything about this, didn't get to see the resolution, couldn't find where it was on the website. And I can't deny their feelings, because they're very uptight about it, that they don't know what we're doing. And I actually consider this the biggest decision in maybe LPEA's history, definitely the biggest decision I've had to make. So that's why I seconded the table. I understand the reason for the hurry up part of it, and it makes sense. I also have to, give credit to our members that they want to know what we're doing. That was my comment. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Kohler. And Rachel, you're next.
Yeah, and I think, hearing and listening to all the members, and Kohler very much hearing that, just for members' sakes to know, every time we talk about this, the hours we spend in executive session, that is a question and concern brought forward. What can we share? How can we keep our members up to date? And I think one of the things that's really been challenging in this situation is that desire to do that and bring this out, and that sense of accountability. Certainly I feel towards that. I know many of us have expressed that. And this challenge wherein this is a really, really complex situation. And it's also a very, very, unfortunately, it's been tucked, not necessarily by our choice, but it's tucked deeply into the legal system, into contract pieces that we just aren't able to share. And that's just made it so hard. And I know it's not been our interest, or not our interest, I should say. It's not how we would want to do this. It's just how we have to, honestly, to protect the best interests of all of our members moving forward, so that we can protect some of, I think all those goals you asked us to achieve with reliability and with costs and things of that sort. So very much heard, and the frustration, certainly I feel it as well.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Any other hands, any other discussion before we go to vote on the motion to table? Okay,
Ted, I'm sort of set up to do roll call votes. Is it all right if I do this as a roll?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Might as well keep it tight. So appreciate that, Graham. Go ahead. So we'll roll call vote. And when Graham calls your name, aye or nay or abstain from the motion to table.
All right, so we're going to go by district. We'll start with Director Metzler in District 1.
I vote nay.
Director Skihan, District 1.
No.
Director Pitcher, District 1.
Nay.
District 2, Director McGinnis.
Aye.
District 2, Director Huntington. Is that, you're muted, is that?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. District 2, Director Lee.
Nay.
District 3, Director Compton.
A nay.
District 3, Director Landis.
Nay.
District 3, Director Lewandowski.
Nay.
District 4, Director Lucian.
Nay.
District 4, Director Witchell.
Nay.
District 4, Director Wheeler.
No.
So the motion to table fails at 10 votes against and 2 votes in favor. We'll resume the main motion, which was to adopt Resolution 2024-03.
Okay, thanks, Graham. Okay, back to the main motion. Joe, you're next in line there. Floor is yours.
Yes, I'm in favor of the resolution. Just a couple of comments. Tri-State has not been a partner with us. They have been an impediment. Even when we had a partial buyout agreement, they backed out of it in a way that was not they didn't explain themselves, and we were left holding a bag and have to go in a different direction, even though we were working to work cooperatively with them. I have to say that this is a long-term business decision by the co-op. There's not going to be any instant short-term rate implications on this. Boards like us are often accused of thinking in the short term and not taking the long view. This is the long view, and this is what is going to help the co-op in, yes, 5, 10, 20 years from now. There is a lot of solar coming on in a transaction like this. Every question cannot be answered. You know, we'll as we do this, we're going to be able to control our own power supply. We're going to better utilize all of the energy sources that we have on rooftops throughout the service area, and we will be doing our part to reduce our emissions, and those are important considerations. And there's also risk, a lot of risk staying with Tri-State, probably more risk, and it's time to move on. To all the questioners, we have been discussing this. There's been plenty of information out there that this vote is coming, and the staff has done a very thorough and deep analysis of this, and they've been asked thousands of questions. So I'm comfortable with moving on. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Joe, for your comments. Do I see any other hands for discussion on the motion? I see Kirsten's hand.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Ted. This has been a difficult decision for all of us. We have been getting a lot of information over the last really several years. Certainly my preference was for our original partial requirements contract. And I thought that was really good. We still stayed with our cooperative brothers, and then we were able to branch out on our own. When that became not an option anymore, and I believe that was more through FERC than anybody else, that's all legal stuff, and I don't. Anyway, then it became a decision of stay or go. And although, Joe, I agree with you that at some point, Tri-State didn't treat us like a member, but they have been treating us like members for the past several years. Unfortunately, it's too late that we have not been able to build the power that we need to build in order to service our territory. When co-ops join together to create generation and transmission companies and co-ops, it was because they wanted to be able to control their destiny, because they wanted to be able to build power together, as opposed to having to be the end of the line for the big investor-owned utilities. And now we're doing this, and I'm speaking in favor of the resolution. We're doing this in order to control our destiny. Destiny changes, and what you have to do, sometimes have to change course. You can't say, oh, well, this is the decision we made 60 years ago. So I am speaking for this resolution, and I appreciate all the work that we've got. I am appreciating in advance whatever forums we decide that we're going to be using to explain this to our members, because I think we heard loud and clear, and we discussed this before this meeting of what are the forums going to be, how do we get this out there, because there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of uncertainty. Thanks, Ted.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kirsten. And wholeheartedly agree with the member communication that we've discussed and agreed to. Holly, your hand's up and you have the floor.
Thank you. My name is Holly Leanne Metzler. It is my honor and privilege to serve the member owners and communities of La Plata Electric Association. I was elected in May 2019 and have faithfully and fully served the duties of care, obedience, and loyalty to this organization. In the fall of 2019, the La Plata Electric Board of Directors did vote to authorize a three-pronged strategy to evaluate safe, affordable, reliable future energy supply options. Over the last 4.5 years since then, LPEA's talented and dedicated staff have explored each one of these options and has done everything that this board of directors has asked them to do. I have come to appreciate the diversity of the skill, thought, and experience of both this board and the staff that they are bringing into this decision. So after very careful consideration of all the information and evidence that has been placed before me, I am prepared to vote in the affirmative for Resolution 2024-03, authorization to file notice of withdrawal from Tri-State. Thank you.
Great, Holly. Thank you very much for your comments. Any other comments in the discussion period before we move on to a vote on the motion on the floor? Tim Wheeler?
Yeah, previous directors have made some very clear points that I don't need to recap, but I will just say that that there's a really important aspect of this which has to do with looking forward rather than in the back rearview mirror. And, you know, as we move forward as a community and as a planet, we are looking at the electrification of almost everything. That is an avenue that we will fill in the future. And the previous model that Tri-State represents is not a model that's taking us there. We have to have our own independence to be nimble in navigating what is a completely different electric utility world than the last 85 years. And in so doing, we need the ability to make decisions, be nimble, have flexibility, local self-reliance. And the contract with Tri-State until 2050 does not represent that at all. It represents, again, something from 20 years ago and is not suitable. Even the fact that they pushed us into a FERC-regulated utility bodes really poorly for any kind of nimble moves. Tri-State recently bungled their own rate increase that they need to keep their company from our co-op, our power supply, from possibly going into bankruptcy. They bungled this rate increase at FERC. It's a strong indication of the kinds of issues that we have faced and will continue to face. We need our own independence to be able to meet our members' desires. And frankly, most of the members I talk to, and I've canvassed a lot of them, over 1,000 in each election, they all have, not all, but 95% have said, why are we in this contract? They're not saying stay. They've been saying that for 6 years. We have spent the last 6 years in that analysis. We have tried a three-pronged strategy. We have gone way out of our way to find a way to do this that would preserve a partnership, but frankly, it doesn't seem like that's a partnership that Tri-State really wants with us. So I think it's time to go. I'm ready to vote yes on this. And I appreciate all the hard work that staff and the other directors in this board and all the input I've gotten from members along the way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. Rachel, you go, please.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I also don't have, I think most of the commentary has been said, the rationales and the reasons for things, but it, to Kohler's point, does feel like one of the most monumentous decisions we'll be making. And certainly on my 7 years on this board. And I've just been reflecting a lot on this journey. I have been on this board for 7 years. I know when I originally ran, it was with this notion of cleaner power. And Barry mentioned this in his comments. The good news is cleaner power is coming, no matter where you are at. We have a state clean energy requirement. We have federal incentives for it. All in all, this is a very good thing. And so that's not the live question for me anymore. The live question really has been, how do we get this in a way that serves all these other concerns that have been brought forward around reliability and cost and our own local control and ability to move and meet this changing energy future and changing grid. And I hope everyone out there is hearing this. Like, we have kicked the tires for hours and hours, and people have stayed up late at night thinking, and we've had conversations. And yeah, I think with all the evidence presented, the thing that just keeps striking me is we have a responsibility to you all, our membership, to I think mitigate our risks. And Nicole mentioned this earlier. It does feel as though there's some deep risk in retaining or remaining with our current wholesale power contracts, power supplier, just in looking at their business structure and kind of financials and some of the things coming down the pike there. And then I think the biggest thing too is just this sense of, yes, it's a co-op, but we are one of 42 votes, and those votes do not align with ours often. And so if our job is to represent our members, while there's a lot of value in the TSGT co-op model, it's just not necessarily in alignment with where we are right now. So I'm in support of this decision, and similarly, want to thank everyone for all their hard work and deep thinking.
Much appreciated, Rachel. Thank you for your comments. Anything else in discussion before we move to vote? Okay, seeing none, I'll close discussion on the motion. And Graham, if you would help out, we'll go through a roll call vote again.
The roll call vote on the motion to adopt resolution 2024-03 from district number 1, Director Metzler.
Aye.
From district number 1, Director Skihan.
Aye.
From district number 1, Director Pitcher.
Aye.
From district number 2, Director McGinnis.
Nay.
From district number 2, Director Huntington.
Nay.
From district number 2, Director Lee.
Nay.
From district number 3, Director Compton.
Aye.
From district number 3, Director Landis.
Aye.
From district number 3, Director Lewandowski.
Yes.
From district number 4, Director Lucian.
Aye.
From district number 4, Director Witchell.
Aye.
From district number 4, Director Wheeler.
Yes.
The vote is 9 in favor, 3 opposed. Resolution 2024-3 carries.
Thank you, Graham. So that's the last item on the agenda for today for the special meeting. I would just like to make a closing comment to the meeting and just put forward my sincere appreciation. Absolutely recognizing the weight of this decision in front of this board and staff and the members that are currently present and the members that we will speak to in the coming days, weeks, months. And just shout out to staff. I mean, it's just been incredible, the amount of effort and commitment that you all have put in to making this decision possible for the board. Obviously, this is not possible without the expertise that you all provide. Also to the board, for really working on this for a very long time, and most specifically to the professionalism that I've experienced here. It's not always possible to have complete consensus, but it is always possible to work in a professional manner And I have seen that in spades. So I appreciate that very much. And then finally, to the membership, we have some representatives here today, but we have a huge membership out there that we are all working for. And this is not the last step in that process. There is an incredible amount of work going forward, not only to execute on the strategy that we're setting forward, but also to bring along the membership, also to provide the necessary education and communication that needs to happen at this point. This is a big turning point. I think someone mentioned that it might be, it's certainly the biggest decision that most of us on the board have made, and it may be one of the biggest decisions that this co-op has ever made. And so we have a new direction that is going to require a lot of effort. And I am extremely confident, again, from all three aspects. From the staff aspect, I'm extremely confident that we have the right team to execute this. From the board standpoint, moving forward, we're going to continue to act professionally and make the right decisions for this co-op. And from the member standpoint, I think the member involvement is terrific. And the more that we can engender that and provide good communication, the better that will get. So the team is in place, and I do think we're poised to move forward. So that's the end of our meeting. If there are any other final comments, I would take those before we adjourn. Seeing none, meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks all.